You feel it, but pretend you don't. Déjà vu disguised as routine, the feeling of walking but not moving. Different days, identical vibes. People change names, the scenery changes colors, but the story remains the same. Something repeats itself silently, like an old song playing behind all your decisions. And as much as you swear you're evolving, a part of you still recognizes the echo. It's subtle, almost invisible. You wake up, but the air feels the same. The conversation changes, but the emotion remains the same. The clock ticks, but time seems to stand still inside you. Life moves on, but the field surrounding you remains stuck in the same frequency. And the most disturbing thing, you feel something is trying to change, but you don't know where the resistance is coming from. Reality is a mirror, and the reflection it returns doesn't lie. Every thought, every emotion, every breath creates a vibration that the universe translates literally. And if your vibration doesn't change, neither does the reflection. It's like shouting into a valley and being surprised to hear the same sound return. The echo isn't punishment. It's a response. But there's something almost no one realizes. The point where the cycle repeats itself isn't in the circumstances, but in the pause between one intention and another. This microscopic space, the interval between desire and action, is where the universe decides whether to continue or transform. Most people live in this interval without realizing it, letting the automatic process choose for them. And that's why the days become mirrors, and the years, copies. With each attempt to change, the old pattern reacts. You think, this is it, but your body still vibrates with the same fear, the same attachment, the same doubt disguised as logic. The field senses, interprets, and responds. Reality obeys with mathematical precision, because it responds not to what you want, but to what you sustain. And sustaining is a verb the body understands better than the mind. Perhaps life is just waiting for a different gesture. A movement so subtle that the mind doesn't recognize it, but the universe hears it. Because the leap doesn't happen when you force change, but when you change the internal rhythm with which reality listens to you. The question is, how much longer can you stand hearing the same echo, believing it's destiny? Because the cycle isn't broken by effort, but by attunement. And the moment you shift frequency is as brief as a sigh, but all it takes is a conscious sigh for the whole world to start moving differently. There's a moment when your body understands before your mind. You realize something's wrong not because someone told you, but because you feel the repetition vibrating in your bones. The same tiredness disguised as routine. The same dialogue that changes voice but carries the same script. It's like walking through a city where all the streets lead back to the same point. No matter how many turns you take, the end is always the same beginning. Repetition isn't punishment. It's communication. Reality persists because there's still something you haven't heard. And while you try to fix the outside world, the message keeps coming through the same channel. The rhythm of your breathing, the weight on your shoulders, the silence between the words you avoid saying. It's as if the universe speaks in a language your body understands, but your mind ignores. There are days when everything seems to be pushing you toward something new, but the invisible force of the familiar pulls you back. The field constricts, the air becomes heavy, time slows down. You feel the urge to change, but fear speaks first. It says, "What if nothing works?" And in that instant, the pattern resets itself. Not because the world trapped you, but because you pushed the old button without realizing it. You repeat what you believe to be safe, even when it no longer serves you. It's a reflection of an emotional memory, an old script still running within your system. When you try to think differently, your body reminds you of what you already know. Therefore, change feels like fighting something invisible, a force that doesn't want to punish you, but rather ensures you stay the same. But there's one detail that transforms everything. The point where this force dissolves is subtle. It's between one breath and the next, between the impulse to react and the moment you decide to observe. When the body relaxes, the signal changes. What was once repetition becomes opportunity. It's in this microspace that the pattern begins to lose strength, like ice melting under the touch of presence. This is where many feel the urge to continue following each revelation, like someone who realizes that something true is finally emerging beneath the noise. Because there is a silent wisdom that reveals itself to those who have the courage to stop and listen to what their body is trying to tell them. And it's precisely when you start noticing the signs that the cycle reacts most strongly, as if the old world is trying to pull you back into it. This is the moment when the test begins, and reality sets the stage for the turnaround that's yet to come. It's at this point that reality begins to test your resilience. When you finally notice the pattern, it doesn't disappear, it intensifies. Everything that was dormant awakens. People return, situations repeat themselves, old memories emerge with frightening clarity, as if time has come full circle just to confront you. It's life asking, with a firm voice, do you really want to change, or do you just want to believe you do? The conflict isn't external. It happens within, between the old and the new vying for space. It's like watching a fire burn inside a house that's still yours. You know you have to let it burn, but you fear losing what you've built there. The mind begs for control, the heart demands surrender. And in this silent duel, every choice becomes a crossroads. Sometimes, the first impact of awareness is loneliness. You begin to see what others don't yet perceive, and for a time, the path seems narrow, almost barren. Conversations sound shallow, familiar places feel uncomfortable. It's as if the light has shifted angles and now illuminates the corners you avoided seeing. And what was once home becomes a mirror. Yet it is in this discomfort that transformation takes shape. Repetition begins to dissolve not with grand gestures, but with small ruptures, a silence in place of the automatic response, a breath at the instant anger would rise, a different perspective on what once seemed like guilt. The new doesn't enter explosively, it infiltrates, almost timidly, until the body becomes accustomed to the space previously occupied by fear. Still, fear persists. It tries to remind you of everything that could go wrong, like a voice echoing in an empty hallway. It calls you back to safety, convinces you to give up before crossing. But each time you listen to it and still choose to move forward, reality shifts a fraction. And that fraction is the beginning of a new world. Deep down, you sense something greater is approaching. A turning point that no longer depends on willpower, but on surrender. The entire field seems to vibrate, awaiting the moment when the old pattern will finally give way. The air shifts, time bends, and breathing deepens, as if the universe is leaning in to hear what comes next. There's a moment when the struggle dissolves and silence fills the space. It's not surrender, it's recognition. You realize you don't need to overcome the old pattern, just stop feeding it. The fire of resistance diminishes, and in place of the chaos emerges a strange, almost disconcerting calm. It's the emptiness after the storm, the muffled sound of your own heart trying to make sense of what just happened. Transformation rarely arrives with applause. It comes disguised in small gestures. The day you decide not to respond in the same tone, the morning you wake up and no longer feel the same urgency to prove something, the moment fear appears, and for the first time you face it without rushing. Your body still trembles, but something inside remains firm. And it is in this fissure, in this interval, that the new begins to breathe. Sometimes it feels like the whole world is trying to test you right after you change. People come back, old triggers resurface, chance seems to conspire to push you back to your old self. But it's not the universe against you, it's the universe confirming that the change is real. Every obstacle is a disguised question. Will you react the same or respond differently? The answer doesn't have to be perfect, it just needs to be conscious. It's curious how, when the pattern finally begins to give way, time seems to reconfigure itself. Things that once took time begin to flow. Coincidences multiply. Synchronicity becomes a secret language between you and the field around you. What once seemed random takes on meaning, like puzzle pieces turned inside out and suddenly aligning naturally. And it's at this point that many feel the urge to support this journey, leaving a silent sign that the message has touched them. Not as an automatic gesture, but as someone recognizing the same mirror in others, a reminder that we're all trying to remember who we are beneath the noise. But the process isn't over yet. Because the true leap doesn't happen when everything falls into place, but when you learn to trust even without understanding. It's in this territory, between clarity and mystery, that the journey deepens. And there's something that hasn't yet fully revealed itself, waiting to be revealed when the silence is ready to hear it. There comes a point in the journey where clarity becomes uncomfortable. Seeing too much also hurts. When the masks fall, there's no longer the disguise of guilt or the shelter of illusion. You realize how much of yourself was constructed to fit in, to please, to not lose. And this realization, while liberating, also carries the weight of everything that needs to be left behind. Because shifting frequencies isn't just about opening new doors, It's about accepting the closing of some you loved. The silence that follows is almost sacred. It seems empty, but it's filled with old voices trying to be heard one last time. There are memories trying to negotiate their permanence, memories begging to continue existing. And the heart, torn between compassion and need, must choose. It's at this moment that fear appears, disguised as longing. It whispers, "What if the new isn't as good as what you lost?" But deep down, what's lost isn't love, it's attachment to the known. The contrast is intense. One step forward, another back. Light and shadow blend in the same space. You feel hope expand in your chest, but at the same time, uncertainty tightens in your throat. It's like walking on a glass floor, transparent, beautiful, but creaking with every movement, reminding you of the risk of shattering. Your mind tries to analyze, your body wants to retreat, but there's something deeper, a silent instinct that tells you, keep going. And as you continue, something curious happens. The world responds differently, but subtly, a conversation that arrives at the right time, an unexpected encounter, a feeling that time is adjusting to its new rhythm. These are small signs, almost invisible, but they make your heart recognize, the field has changed. Still, fear doesn't disappear completely. It becomes a traveling companion, closely watching every step. Life seems to be watching you too. It tests your new vibration, measuring how much you truly trust what you don't yet see. And it's in this delicate interplay between faith and doubt that the true field of creation is revealed. Each breath is a silent vow of continuity. Each choice, a reminder that you're still on the path. But something greater is approaching, something that no longer depends on strength or will. It's like a slowly rising tide, changing the landscape without asking permission. You feel the air vibrate differently, as if the next moment carries within it the power to turn everything upside down. The omen is gentle but undeniable. The moment when reality finally begins to respond is much closer than it seems. The tide rises silently, unhurriedly, yet inevitably. You notice the change not by the sounds, but by the rhythm with which the world begins to breathe differently. The same streets seem to contain a different kind of light. The same sky now has depths that previously went unnoticed. It's as if reality has become translucent, revealing the layers that were always there, but hidden beneath the noise of haste. There's a paradox at this moment. The more you expand, the more you feel the weight of what you still need to let go of. Every old part tries to hold on, like branches resisting the wind before falling. And in each letting go, there's a small, intimate, almost beautiful pain. Because it's not what's gone that hurts, it's the empty space it leaves. The void that begs to be inhabited by something new, but that doesn't yet have form. The mind tries to understand, the body tries to control, but none of it works anymore. What once seemed solid begins to dissolve into silence. Plans, certainties, promises, everything becomes liquid, slipping through your fingers. And yet, there's beauty in it. Because within this fluidity lies a veiled promise of reconstruction. Fear tries to whisper that you're losing control, but a softer voice responds. Perhaps it's the control that has always held you captive. Light and shadow alternate like waves. One moment, your heart opens and feels peace. The next, an ancient shadow resurfaces, demanding attention. But now you no longer run away. You simply observe, as if you understand that even darkness has its role, to show where the light has not yet reached. It is in this calm gaze that transformation begins to become real, no longer an idea, but a vibration that spreads through every gesture, every breath. The contrast intensifies. There are days when clarity arrives like dawn, tearing the veil. And there are others when everything seems gray again. The difference is that now you recognize the cycle. You understand that the alternation is part of the process, that the oscillation itself is a sign that something is alive within you. Because only what pulsates oscillates. What is static dies. And in this back and forth, a new sensation emerges, an almost electric anticipation. As if the air around you were about to change density, as if something were on the verge of happening. Your breath catches for a moment, not in fear, but in awe. The world seems to hold its breath along with you, waiting for the exact second when the invisible decides to reveal itself. With each breath, something in the field begins to respond. Small synchronicities emerge, subtle, almost shy, as if the universe were testing your attention. An unexpected conversation, a phrase that perfectly fits the thought you had seconds before, a simple event that carries a precision impossible to ignore. It's the echo of your new rhythm, the reflection of what began to vibrate within now mirroring itself outside. The transformation, however, is not linear. There are days when progress is clear, and everything seems to align with an almost mystical harmony. But there are others when the field retracts, when the answers seem lost in the air. It's the natural movement of a system reconfiguring itself. With each step forward, reality tests the stability of the new frequency. It's as if it wants to know if the change is real or just an escape attempt disguised as growth. The paradox becomes clear. The more you trust, the more the universe challenges you to prove that trust. Opportunities appear with the same intensity as tests. Flow brings abundance and, at the same time, mirrors. People reappear with the same roles as before, but something has changed, not in them, but in you. And it is in this silent recognition that power is consolidated. What once destabilized you now becomes a sign of stability. This is the subtle beauty of transition. Change ceases to be a distant promise and becomes a palpable force, manifested in details. The tone of your voice, the way you enter a room, the calm that settles even in the face of uncertainty. And others notice it, even if they can't quite put their finger on it. It's as if your presence begins to create ripples, effortlessly influencing the environment, simply by existing coherently. The reaction to this is almost inevitable. Some approach, curious. Others move away, uncomfortable. But everyone is touched in some way. That's why so many, upon sensing this turning point, feel the urge to leave a trail, a comment, a word, not as feedback, but as a mirror. It's the recognition that, on some level, they too are traversing the same terrain. The tension remains alive, pulsing with every breath. The path is open, but the landscape still changes with every step. Something larger is forming, a convergence that has yet to fully reveal itself. And as the air vibrates in this silent anticipation, the body knows that the next movement could redefine everything, the beginning of a new reality or the definitive deepening of the mystery that precedes it. The field begins to expand, but with it comes the responsibility of sustaining the new rhythm. It's easy to believe that change ends when the world responds, but the real test begins when the responses become more complex. Life begins to listen closely to you, and it echoes not only what you say, but also what vibrates silently. Every forgotten thought, every unresolved emotion, returns as a backdrop, an encounter, a mirror. It's like walking through a labyrinth that changes according to the state of your heart. There are times when everything seems to flow perfectly, and for a moment you believe you've mastered the process. But then, without warning, the ground changes texture. What was lightness becomes density. The same doors that opened begin to demand new passwords. It's a reminder that growth isn't a prize, it's a commitment. And this commitment demands total presence, not perfection, but truth. Clarity sometimes comes with discomfort. It illuminates parts of you that haven't yet aligned, parts you'd rather keep in the shadows. And yet, it's impossible to ignore the beauty of it. Because seeing, even what hurts, is still a privilege. Darkness isn't an enemy. It's the contrast that allows you to recognize the light. Fear isn't a failure. It's the very feeling of being on the edge of the unknown. The images become clearer. You feel like you're walking between worlds, one foot in what has already dissolved, the other in what is still being born. The air feels different, almost electric. There's something on the horizon, something that pulses and attracts, yet still hides behind a thin mist. The heart recognizes the path, even when the eyes can't see it. It's the body that goes first, guided by an ancient wisdom that the mind still tries to comprehend. And in this in-between space, time takes on a different behavior. The hours stretch, the days seem to overlap. Sometimes the past reappears in fragments, as if seeking to be seen through a new lens. Other times, the future whispers, asking for trust in something that doesn't yet exist. You live in both, but you begin to understand that power lies in the middle, in the extended, vibrant now, where all realities touch for an instant before choosing form. It's there that the breath catches. The air becomes thick, charged with possibilities. Something moves, but doesn't yet reveal itself. And the heart understands that this space between what was and what will be is the true turning point, the place where the universe holds its breath with you, ready to reveal what lies hidden in the next beat. There's a moment when everything seems suspended, as if the entire universe holds its breath along with you. No sound, no movement, just the sensation of being between worlds, in a space where time hasn't yet decided where it will go. And it's in this interval that something begins to happen, so subtle it almost goes unnoticed. A subtle warmth in the chest, a slight tingling in the hands, the realization that the body understands what's to come before the mind. The landscape changes first from within. What once seemed like chaos begins to gain coherence. You realize that coincidences were never coincidences, and that the silence you so feared was actually an ancient language trying to be remembered. Everything that once frightened you begins to reveal its purpose. The delay, the mistake, the loss, nothing was wasted. Each fragment was placed there to adjust your frequency, to prepare the ground for something that can only be born when you are ready to hear it. But being ready doesn't mean being sure. Confidence doesn't come from the absence of fear, but from the ability to stay even when it tries to pull you back. Doubt still creeps in, your body still wavers, but now there's a point of stillness that resists. It's the part of you that has learned to observe, not react. That understands that the path doesn't have to be predictable to be true. Light and shadow continue to alternate, drawing the contours of something that still has no name. There are days when everything shines and you feel the entire universe pulsating in unison. And there are days when the gray returns, heavy, reminding you that expansion also tires. The secret is not to identify with either facet, just to feel the movement that exists between them. Because it is in the in-between that creation happens. Sometimes, the new approaches almost imperceptibly. It arrives not with a flash, but as a presence. A different air, a gaze that lingers a little longer, a thought that doesn't belong to the past. It's as if reality, gently, begins to reorganize itself around you. Small cracks appear in the concrete of the old, and through them passes the first light of what is emerging. You don't yet understand what it announces, but you feel it. The air vibrates. The ground seems to breathe. There's a silent promise in everything, that the next step, when it comes, will be not just a breakthrough, but a revelation. Something that will transform not only what you see, but how the world itself sees you. And your body, now attentive, remains in wait, heart open, listening to the invisible beat of something about to awaken. And then, something clicks. Not like a noise that resolves itself, but like a note that finally finds its right tone within a symphony that's always been playing, you just haven't been listening. Reality suddenly seems to breathe along with it. Movements become smoother, choices more intuitive. The right people begin to appear effortlessly. The world doesn't change color, but you begin to see the colors that were previously hidden in the gray. There's a new serenity, one that doesn't depend on circumstances. It's as if time has learned to dance around you, not because you master it, but because you've learned to move with it. The strength that once came from struggle now comes from presence. And what once required effort now happens naturally. It's the point at which the invisible begins to collaborate with the visible, and you understand, with your body, what you've always sought with your mind. The universe doesn't need to be convinced, just tuned in. Everything that seemed lost finds new purpose. The wounds that shaped you cease to be bitter memories and become trails. Every mistake, a map. Every fall, a coordinate that silently pointed you to the exact place you needed to be right now. It wasn't a punishment, it was a training session. And realizing that changes everything. But true transformation isn't the end of the journey. It's the beginning of the responsibility to create from this new awareness. The field responds faster now. The signals are clearer. The words, more powerful. Every thought gains weight, every intention, form. The power that once seemed distant now pulsates in every cell. And you feel, almost physically, what it means to co-create with the very space that surrounds you. There's a profound recognition. You've become the turning point you've been waiting for. The search for answers gives way to constant listening. The universe is no longer an external force, but an extension of your own pulse. And in this state, life ceases to be a sequence of attempts and becomes a continuous dialogue between who you are and what lies ahead. It's at this moment that many feel the urge to leave a mark, a word, a sign, a silent gesture that says, "I've awakened too." Because this space is more than a narrative, it's a shared frequency. And each time someone touches this vibration, it expands, reaching others still stuck in repetition. Take a deep breath. Feel the air flowing through you, like an ancient code that always knew the way. And if something inside you has moved, if a part of the old has given way to the new, mark that moment. Leave a mark. Write down what has awakened. Sign up to continue this living frequency. Because awakening doesn't end here, it has only just begun.